Good morning, members. We have a quorum, so let's call this meeting to order. Let's invite the administration and deputations in. Good morning. First of all, I welcome deputations and individuals to this meeting of the Subcommittee on proposals on the method for selecting the Chief Executive in 2017. We are holding a hearing to receive deputations today, and this session will be suspended at 11:15. And I will invite you to speak in accordance with the list, and you have a speaking time limit of 3 minutes, and when 3 minutes are reached, there will be a beeper going off reminding you that your time is up. And if you want to give us written submissions, please do so. Please give the written submissions to the Secretariat of the Legislative Council, who will distribute your submissions to members. I'd like to remind members of the public expressing views in this meeting that when you give your views, you will not be protected by the Legislative Council Powers and Privileges Ordinance. Equally, the written submissions will not be covered by the electrical PNP. So when you speak, please speak into the microphone, but there is no need to literally stick to the microphone. Just lean close to it. And you also see an earpiece in front of you. And if you like, you can use the earpiece. And I'd like to remind deputations and individuals to note the various security measures in the note for members of the public attending hearings in the electrical complex. As deputations or a member of the public gallery, and the notice has been circulated to everyone and is also in front of you. And if necessary, you can ask the security staff in electrical for the relevant notice. And after deputations have spoken, if time allows, I'll see if members have any questions, and then I will invite Deputy Secretary for CMA, Mr. Gordon Leung, to respond to the submissions made. So that's the arrangement. The first deputation, Mr. Chen Choi-hei. Thank you, Chairman. The new forum has all along been concerned about constitutional reform. In recent years, there have been a greater divide in society. It's really hard to come up with a consensus, and the middle of the road approach has not given any support. And when the first round consultation was conducted, the CPG emphasizes that we need to act in accordance with the basic law. And the Democrats, on the other hand, insisted on a public nomination and threatened to stage the Occupy movement. And last August, the NPCSC announced the decision on the 31st of August, which set a framework for the constitutional reform for Hong Kong. And the Occupy movement then started, causing a wide divide in society, and we all had a price to pay. And when the second round consultation was conducted, the Democrats continued to boycott the government and insisted on vetoing any proposal under the 831 framework. So it's not very optimistic that the reform package can be passed. But the new forum is of the view that we should all be pragmatic and rational as far as democracy in Hong Kong is concerned. The CPG has substantive appointment power over the appointment of the CE, and the CE returned by universal suffrage must be accepted by the majority of Hong Kong people as well as the CPG. Although this proposal may not be in line with the wish of everybody, but 5 million eligible voters will be able to vote if the proposal is passed. So it's in a way, it is a step forward. So, and if the proposal is vetoed, the existing system would be kept, and those vetoing the reform package have yet to come up with another way out to take the democratic development of Hong Kong further. And this will only cause the universal suffrage of Hong Kong to go in the wrong direction. This is not conducive to the benefit of society. And in fact, the majority of Hong Kong people is pragmatic and rational. And according to the different opinion polls, there are more who supported the proposal than those against. And according to our survey, 50% plus respondents supported the government's proposal, and only 3% or so supported maintaining status quo. And the opinion poll also found that 40% of the respondents are... Sorry, your time is up. Cecilia Kwong. Thank you, Chairman. Members, good morning. The method for selecting the chief executive by universal suffrage. Now we have a proposal for 2017, and I support the proposal. I hope all members can forge consensus and pass the constitutional reform package so that 5 million eligible voters can vote in 2017 to select the chief executive of their wish. Now the threshold for nomination has been lowered, and selecting the CE by universal suffrage will help the stable development of Hong Kong in the future. And the stability is one major factor to attract investors to invest in Hong Kong. And in this round, the NC will remain unchanged, and a candidate can stand in nomination as long as 120 recommendations have been sought, and the upper limit is 240. That will help more candidates to take part in the election. And the threshold is therefore lowered as far as nominations concerned. For these candidates to be selected by one person, one vote by 5 million voters. Our aspiration, whether our aspiration can be realized, will now lie in the hands of electoral members. I urge members to support the government's proposal to set a milestone for the democratic development of Hong Kong. Some may say that this is not the perfect solution, but as Mrs. Carrie Lam said, in 2017, the method for selecting a chief executive by universal suffrage is not yet the end game, and I believe that there is still room for improvement. But if we miss this chance, everything will start afresh. So how many years will Hong Kong people have to wait before we can select our chief executive by one person, one vote? I urge members to think for the interests of Hong Kong and support the government's proposed method for selecting the CE by universal suffrage so that 5 million eligible voters can exercise one person, one vote to choose the CE they want. Mr. Leung Wang-Ching. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and give my views. This is the third time I have attended the hearing, so I'll be more succinct. The first point is this: selecting the CE by one person, one vote. This is an important milestone in Hong Kong, and I very much look forward to seeing the proposal passed. Second point, I understand that there are some in the society who think that this is not the perfect proposal, and some others who think that this proposal is already good enough. And I think if the 1,200 strong nominating committee can now be progressed to a mechanism with 5 million eligible voters voting for the CE by one person, one vote, this is an improvement. I don't want to have an impasse. I want to see progress. And thirdly, our neighboring cities in China, in the Asia-Pacific region, have been our major competitors, and many of them have already overtaken Hong Kong. And I'm referring to social development. So the bickering should stop. We need to stay united to take a step forward. And I think if the reform package is passed, it will be conducive to the future development of Hong Kong. Mr. Yuan Wah Yong. Good morning. What I'm going to say will not include details of the proposal, because I think at this stage we've come to a stage where we should consider how we can achieve the goal, that is to pass the constitutional reform proposal, because this is only the first step for further improvements in future. So if we propose further changes to the details of the package at this stage, we will need more discussion, and we should therefore focus on this reform proposal, which is constitutional, legitimate, and rational, and which has the greatest chance of being passed. Even if you want to make a new friend, you need to first get to know the friend and talk to your friend before you decide or to make suggestions to your friend on areas that you don't agree with. Some say that this proposal shows that the CPG has no faith in Hong Kong people administering Hong Kong, and I don't agree. Well, when I grew up, when we first made a request to our parents to go out by ourselves, as a responsible parent, definitely, the parent would not just let you be. The parent would ask where you're going and that you should return home before dinner. So well, surely at the time I pocketed it first, so to speak, so that I could go out with friends. And then I pocketed it first, and I went out and I followed the parents' instructions, and therefore we built trust. All right, your time is up, Mr. Low Kam Wing. Chairman, members, I think that we need to forge consensus within the scope of the Basic Law and the NPCSC decision on the August 31st. I think this proposal is constitutional, legitimate. It is also in line with the principle of one country, two systems. I think this proposal has taken into account the interests of all sectors of the community, and the nominating procedure is highly transparent. It is also in line with the principle of fairness and justice. And at the members' recommendation stage, the threshold is relatively lower now, and it is believed that more members of the public would be able to seek nomination and to have the opportunity to explain the manifesto to the public and members. And this is the good opportunity for the constitutional reform package to be passed. And if we miss this opportunity, we don't know whether the next proposal would be better or worse than this one. On the other hand, if we pass this proposal, not only will we be able to select our CE by universal suffrage in 2017, we will also be able to move on to having universal suffrage for the electoral election. I don't think this is the perfect solution, but then haste makes waste. And if some members think that because the proposal is not perfect, it should be vetoed, and if this proposal is not passed, in the end, everybody in Hong Kong will suffer, and the 5 million eligible voters' interest would be undermined. So the members should be pragmatic. I don't think anyone wants to see an impasse as far as constitutional development is concerned, so I urge members to listen to the views of Hong Kong people and support this proposal so as to set a milestone for the constitutional development in Hong Kong. Next, Ms. Chan Sut-Yi. Our association supports the government's constitutional reform proposal because, first of all, one person, one vote is the aspiration of the majority of Hong Kong, and the government's proposal is in line with the actual situation of Hong Kong. And thirdly, the nominating procedure is a fair and just and democratic procedure, and we need to progress democracy gradually. And comparing to the 1,200 strong election committee, universal suffrage is definitely progress. And the August 31st decision will not be changed. And the Democrats should face up to this reality and listen to the views of the majority of Hong Kong, and they should listen to the people of Hong Kong and support the proposal. And only when we have universal suffrage and one person, one vote can we further improve our electoral methods. Mr. Lam Chuk Ting. Good morning. Nowadays we hear lies and untruths, and the proposal is one example. The August 31st decision is a blatant example to overturn to go back on the CPG's promise for democracy of Hong Kong, and Hong Kong people are deprived of a genuine choice. So this is just fake universal suffrage. As Professor Albert Chan says, this constitutional reform proposal will be something similar to the Iran model. and some politicians are just trying to protect their own interests politically and financially, and they just want to please the CPG. And the government keeps on suggesting we should pocket it first and try to sell this fake universal suffrage package as a genuine one. And there are also some distorted arguments saying that universal suffrage will undermine the interest and the security of our country, and some even resort to mudslinging. And Professor Lau also said that the result of the election would only serve as reference for the CPG, and all these will be put on record, and the history will reveal them, reveal their wrongdoings. And we can see that the proposal is unlikely to be passed, and that we won't have universal suffrage in 2017, and yet we should not make compromises, because as far as basic rights are concerned, there must be the right to stand in the election and to vote. And if Hong Kong people accept this fake proposal, we won't be able to fight for the genuine proposal. We should have this discerning ability to say no to fake universal suffrage. Members of the public, we should not forget our original intention. We should not be afraid of uncertainty, and we should not succumb to pressure, because this will only undermine democracy. And if we continue to strive for democracy, then there will be an opportunity to see our dreams realized.
The respected chairman and members of the LegCo, as members of Hong Kong, we are concerned about the future of Hong Kong and the interest of Hong Kong, and we put in our fair share of contribution and efforts. Now, concerning the election of the CE, a lot of people have put in these efforts for a responsible attitude, responsible to the future of Hong Kong and welfare of Hong Kong. I take my hat off to those who have put in the efforts. There are different opinions, and that is only natural. And we are at the last stage and critical stage of discussion of the methodology of election of the CE. And I urge the respected members of the LegCo to put down your differences and work towards the interest of Hong Kong, the welfare of Hong Kong, and the democracy of Hong Kong, and also for the future generation of Hong Kong, so that we can reach a decision which is historic and let the reform go through. Thank you. Ms. Chow Fong Yi, please. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am in support of the SAR government's proposed methodology. Well, there's been a lot of discussions, and I'm just a small Hong Kong citizen. But even so, I would want to share with you a strange phenomenon that we observe in Hong Kong. It seems that the people of Hong Kong are trying to persuade the LegCo members to listen to us. Now, I've heard about 10 deputations just now. Most of them are in support of the proposed methodology. It seems that the Hong Kong people do want one man, one vote. It is now the Hong Kong people urging, pleading with the LegCo members to listen to us. This is actually ridiculous. I took the taxi when coming to the LegCo, and I told the taxi driver I'm coming to the LegCo to support the government's methodology for election of the CE. And the taxi driver said, no, you have the right to speak. Tell them this from me. I am a ordinary citizen of Hong Kong. For those in power in the administration or the LegCo, please be fair. Please listen to the people of Hong Kong. LegCo members, you want the vote from us. If you do the right thing, we will know, the citizens of Hong Kong. Our eyes are wide open. We know what is real, what is false. Do not do any more filibustering. Do not come up with things that seems to be true but actually false. do something that's true and real, rather than to come up with a proposal which will not be, or rather not to deny the public works of Hong Kong this way, that way, stop the progress of Hong Kong, really let us put Hong Kong back onto the right path, do what we need to, and those in the LegCo really listen to the Hong Kong people, rather than to be in the LegCo, throw things around, waste time talking about nonsense, and fan on the young people of Hong Kong, come up with foul language at the LegCo sessions and say that this is real or the truth. Stop that. Mr. Chan Yifeng. Mr. Chairman, I am an ordinary citizen of Hong Kong. I am not a person of power. I represent nobody but the ordinary people of Hong Kong. I am here to support the election, universal suffrage election method for the CE under the framework of the 831 decision. Now, we have pan-democrats within the LegCo. Some are here today, some are not. They seem to be determined and bound up in vetoing this proposal. And the result is that for 2017, universal suffrage for election of the CE is hung on a fine line. Now, what is democracy? What is the voice of the people? Well, I also took a taxi as my compatriot next to me. Well, the taxi driver said, I want there to be universal suffrage. Let them know. What is democracy? Democracy is for something to bring about harmonious development and welfare for the society. The pan-democrats should not use the 5 million Hong Kong citizens as a chip in bargaining. There should be consensus, there should be coordination, so that there is a balance of interests from various sectors. And only through this will the 7 million Hong Kong people benefit, rather than to say we want a one step to the final goal of genuine universal suffrage. But what is genuine universal suffrage? There is no explanation of that. Now, there are 4 sectors in the election committee, and maximum, the cap is 240 for the nomination, and the threshold is very reasonable. I do not think that this is very serious pre-selection. And also, for the 5 million eligible voters in Hong Kong, we want, and we fervently want, to have the right to cast the vote to select or elect the chief executive. I really urge the pan-democrats to think for the welfare of Hong Kong and the Hong Kong people. Now, the major opinion surveys are all in. The results are all in. At least 60% of the people of Hong Kong have voted for or said that they want this to go through. Please listen to them. I urge you. Mr. Li Hongjie, the process has come to the final stage, and taking into account the views of society, the administration had come up with a reasonable and rational proposal so that in 2017 there will be a major step taken forward for Hong Kong in the election of the CE. I want the respected venerable LegCo members to listen to the people of Hong Kong. We really want one man, one vote. I do not want there to be Occupy Central again. I do not want to be unfriending my friends again. Please respect the majority's views. Even though for individual reasons you do not want the ruling party, please do not jeopardize, even so, the future of the millions of Hong Kong people. If you do not stop, the economy will regress, the people will have no livelihood, Hong Kong will be torn apart, people will be leaving, and we do not enjoy the kind of relationship that you enjoy with overseas diplomats and politicians. We cannot emigrate any time from Hong Kong. Please do not stop the progress of Hong Kong. The society is progressing. Nothing will stick in its tracks. What do you mean with selection? There is no genuine universal suffrage. The age limit requirement, for instance, 40 years of age itself is a selection. What do you mean, no selection? So, for Hong Kong, until now, Hong Kong is home for a lot of people. There is a rule of law, there is public order, but some people are trying to throw that upside down. You are occupying the roads unlawfully, you are abusing people verbally and otherwise. I know most of the people do not condone that kind of behavior. Anybody who loves Hong Kong, loves the country, or are patriotic will be able to serve as CE. I do not think anybody who is not that will want to serve or be able to serve as CE. I ask you whether you love Hong Kong. Your decision, as mentioned by someone just now, will go into the history of Hong Kong. For the future of Hong Kong, for your future generation, support the proposal and continue to monitor the government and continue to contribute to the welfare and economy of Hong Kong. Mr. Ng, Mr. Chairman, for the constitution of the election committee, for the proposals, for the election of the CE, well, all these, what we have in front of us in the proposal is unprecedented. It is fair. It is just, and it is democratic. I am in support of the proposal on the basis of the decision of the NPCSC to adopt the proposal to elect the CE. This is to be supported because it is also in line with the majority view of Hong Kong. As a professional, I am also in support of that. The proposal must go through. I elect that the election committee can deviate from the 4 sectors, and the number can stay at 1,200. I want to see that the LegCo members on the one listen to the people of Hong Kong rather than to conduct opinion surveys and at the same time after the surveys come in negate them, overturn them. I want the elected CE to be able to closer to the people, to be more accountable. 2017 CE election is at the cusp. I want there to be the election committee and the sectors and the numbers to stay constant as proposed. I am in support of the proposal. Mr. Kwok Wing-kin, this morning I didn't take the taxi, I took the MTR, and I heard the news talking about the survey results. 40% actually do not of Hong Kong people do not want to see the proposal brought through, passed. I do not know where the other speakers base their points on concerning the acceptability of the proposal for the people. This is a proposal with a selection committee which is a puppet of the central government. And the central government also is controlling the nominating committee. And these 2 to 3 candidates that are elected are really coming from a small circle.
Hong Kong Connection.
Hong Kong Connection, the program had also pointed this out, and it has discovered that for sports and for the restaurant sectors, there are multiple electors who have the same registered address, and this is ridiculous. the threshold is low, some people said. But why do you not mention that going through the gate, to be able to come through the gate, it actually takes over half of the members of the nominating committee. We know that even for milk formula, there are different formulation, different ingredients, and of course, with malactite, it would of course be a false formulation. So what you're saying is, what we're saying is that this is a false universal suffrage, because we're not talking about the 40-year-old age limit. We're talking about other false selection criteria. Now, if the LegCo, some people allege, if it passes a proposal, then Hong Kong stands to lose, and the central government reaches its goal. But on the other hand, the Hong Kong government still has to live up to stipulation number 7 of the annex of the Basic Law, and that is the Hong Kong will have to live up to the democratic system. The LegCo will have to play the gatekeeper for taking down any election method that is not democratic. Hong Kong people will generation after generation continue to agitate for true democracy. Mr. Chairman, I am here to Mr. Hong Cho Sing, please. Yes, Mr. Chair. I'm here to talk about the election of the CE. This is a proposal that I support. 5 million people choosing the CE is better than 1,200 people. This will be the first time that Hong Kong people will have the right to choose and vote for our CE. This is unprecedented, and it is important. 5 million people voting in the CE. If you do not vote for the CE, how do you know how he will perform in the future? There will be chances in the future to vote another person in if you're not happy with him. Give us that power. The 831 decision under the NPCSC is acceptable. Please support the proposal. Mr. Chen Kar-wei. Mr. Chair, this is the wish of all the people, most of the people of Hong Kong, in accepting the proposal. The Pan-Democrats should also listen to the people of Hong Kong. Let the historic step of political reform in Hong Kong come to fruition. Mr. Zhang Ka-hong. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The administration will very soon come to the lecture with their reform proposal. And a lot of members of the administration as well as lecture members have been going to the public to canvass for their support. And this is an unprecedented moment for one person, one vote, universal suffrage. It is a very important milestone for the political development of Hong Kong. I'm in full support of the government in its proposal. It is completely in line with the Basic Law and also the NPCSC 831 decision, and it is also in keeping with the constitutional position and legal position of the CE for the Hong Kong SAR. Referring to the existing system of Hong Kong with 4 sectors from 1,200 members of the election committee is representative, and it respects the rule of balance and representation. Even though some people say that this is not the perfect way, but it doesn't mean that the future cannot be future methodology cannot be changed. If the LegCo passes its proposal, allowing 5 million people of Hong Kong to cast their vote and to make a big stride forward for the economy, for the democracy of Hong Kong, there is no country in the world where the system does not change forever. I hope that under one country, two system, there will be more opportunities for optimization in the future.
So
if you have a nomination of 1,200 people, then you can take part in the election. Increasing competitiveness and openness, is coming on top of actually the effort to allow people of different opinions, political opinions, to be nominated. The nomination period is open to the public. The candidates will have a chance to explain their political or election platform, and this helps enhance transparency and can ensure that the election is fair and just. Recently, various political groups have, through various ways, collected public opinions. And most of the people polled show that they support actually having universal suffrage by law. I hope that members can abide by the mainstream opinions and push, the political reform forward. Thank you. Next one is Choi Hing Fa. Thank you, Chairman. I think with the controversy raging so far, I think all along we've been dwelling on one issue, which is who is the chief executive accountable to? My view is, under the basic law, and as agreed by most Hong Kong people, as the chief executive, he has to be accountable to both the central government and Hong Kong people. As a person living in Hong Kong, I feel that the 1,200 nomination committee system has been, or the election committee system has been accountable to the central government rather than to the 7 million people in Hong Kong. Why? Because the game has always been played by the 1,200 people all along, to the exclusion of Hong Kong people. Every year, I voted in person for district council elections or LegCo elections. So I tried to fulfill my responsibility as a citizen. But always, the question remained in my mind. Why is it that the person deciding on the fate of Hong Kong is someone that I cannot vote for? If that's the case, it seems that why do we think that LegCo members are important? Because it is, the council, the LegCo, the highest level council that Hong Kong people can vote for. And yet we have no right to vote for our CE. As a teacher, sometimes my students ask me the question, why is it that we cannot vote for our chief executive? So today, my thinking is, I think we've reached a critical point. There's a chance for us to vote, but I'd like to ask, for ordinary people, we cannot control the outcome. Yet, it depends on the two-thirds majority vote of LegCo. So I hope that for all of you present here, whether you're Democrats or pro-establishment, as a person of living in Hong Kong, are you going to give people the basic right to vote? And secondly, about public opinions. Whatever you think of the post date held, I think about 40% of the votes might be inflated. But whether it's for the pan-democrats or pro-establishment camps, both parts are sticking to their opinions. But when would we know what role do LegCo members play? Next one is Lee Yuk-ping. Thank you, Chairman and members. The consultation on the selection methods of the chief executive and also following the framework set up by the August 31st resolution, the Hong Kong government has come up with the political reform proposal according to law, and the government has strived to do its best. And it has enhanced the entry threshold and made possible for more people to participate. There could be 5 to 10 candidates, and the final 2 to 3 candidates with the highest nominations will actually stand the election. So I think this is a practical solution or proposal given by the government. I do support it. Under the system of one country, two systems, this is something unprecedented. It also reflects the respect and care of the central government for Hong Kong. Now we are faced with new challenges, and we can strive to show mutual respect and understanding. And we have actually tried to improve people's livelihood and allow for social progress. And yet, in the view of the divisions right now, I think we should adopt the same principle that we've adopted before. As a professional, I very much hope that Hong Kong can maintain its harmony and allow for Hong Kong people to live in harmony and to have a good livelihood. Hong Kong is a homeland. We need to treasure it. Our goal is to have a democratic system, and yet the process of fighting for it should also respect mutual opinions. The mainstream opinion nowadays is in support of the political reform. Therefore, pushing for the universal suffrage of the chief executive in 2017 actually can actually go on from now on. The reform proposal actually is a milestone in the progress towards democratic election in Hong Kong. Once we've taken this big step, Hong Kong's prosperity and stability will have a strong foundation. As all you know, the development of democracy has to come by stages and in a gradual and orderly manner. And this political reform proposal actually should be supported unless you have other conspiracies. I don't agree with anyone who, on any grounds, tried to take away from Hong Kong people the right to vote for the chief executive by one person, one vote. At this critical point, we need to, by 27, we need to make the selection happen. The 2/3 majority vote of the electoral members are needed to allow for the political reform to happen. If some members try to stifle this proposal, sorry, your time's up. Next one is Deng Chi-ho. Chairman and members, I'd like to share with you some of my personal opinions. The 2017 proposal is a question of relativity, like 10 and 100 and 0. They are just two figures, but if we put these two figures together, 100 is a bigger number, 0 is the smallest number. So these are all relative terms and comparisons. Same with democracy. Comparing with the present method of selecting the chief executive, by 27, if we can have one man, one vote, then that's already is a major step forward. I think those who support the 2017 method actually would actually those who support the method for selecting chief executive in 2017 will represent a majority. I believe that some Democrats, they are worried about a fake universal suffrage and pocketing the proposal. Well, I don't think that's something better than, because that provides a gimmick for them to take to the streets. You can't just keep talking about fighting, right? So for different countries, there are also different methods of democratic elections. In the U.S. is through the primary systems, and the UK and European systems are different. So why should we abide by some so-called international standard? Why should Hong Kong follow the example of other countries? Why can't we have our own election system? Definitely we can. I feel that whether we pass the political reform proposal, both the Democrats and the pro-establishment camp are responsible. It really is up to electoral members to vote on the package. What is your decision? Okay, well, depends on what you think. it wouldn't be affected by what I say, I know. But I do hope that all of you can, like in dancing, take one step forward and one step backward. And then we can together perform a good dance. As a young person in today's generation, I think we have acted according to our belief. At this moment, my belief is that I hope that by 2017 we can move forward instead of having an impasse. We need to take a step forward. Thank you. Next one is Mok Ka-chun. I'm Vice Chairman of Puching Association. Mok Ka-chun. I've got 3 questions here. I am a secondary school teacher in school. I always ask my students questions. The same. I've got 3 questions for you today. The first question is, always the radical Democrats always say that if we pocket proposal now, we will have to pocket it for life. But is that true? Whether the Pan Democrats or the pro-establishment camp, the pro-establishment camp always say that this is not the ultimate solution. Therefore, we can pocket it. Maybe you think that this is some sort of nomination with screening. And it shouldn't be the ultimate solution. It's just actually one solution during the process of having the full universal suffrage. So it's not possible that we will pocket it for life. And secondly, will political systems remain the same forever? The Pan Democrats always say we need to look at international standards. Indeed, in the international community, there's no political system ever that's remained unchanged. All system evolves over time. Take the example of U.S. The universal suffrage there stayed back to 1700s. But how come the black people only got the right to vote in 1965? Why didn't they have universal suffrage at the same time? Why can't the black people have it earlier? If we don't have it now, are we saying that Hong Kong people will remain in a standstill forever? And the moderates say that we can change the corporate voting to individual votes, and the central government can abolish constitutional functional constituency, and that would be a condition for them approving the reform. We know that we have the 5-step process. The first step was initiated by the chief executive. So how can the central government promise you to abolish the functional constituencies some years down the road? It's up to the chief executive. So there's some sort of logical error here. There is also a moderate also asked that why can't we optimize the corporate voting? Well, the Occupy Central movement had used several months of our time, so time could have spent on optimizing the functional constituencies. And also, for the evolution of political systems, France and UK are examples where systems actually evolved. Are you talking about European standards or Chinese standards or American standards? There are various standards for industrialization. Even railway tracks have different widths. So what sort of international standard you're referring to? Lastly, are the moons overseas better or rounder? So I hope that the electrical members here can consider whether adopting overseas systems mean that they are the real universal suffrage. Next one. Mr. Chen Chi-chun. I'm an ordinary person in Hong Kong. I also support one man, one vote, and that's what many people in Hong Kong want. The Hong Kong SAR government's proposal is actually in line with our constitutional system, and it's also in line with what's prescribed by the law. The nominating procedure will be an open, just, and democratic procedure. The 1200 Election Committee is a big step forward. The August 31 resolution is unchangeable. And the Democrats need to face up to the reality and listen to the views of various people instead of insisting on what they think should be done, because that would undermine the benefits of 8 million people. I hope that the pro-establishment camp and the Democrats can be prudent and be responsible for moving forward or enabling political reform to happen in Hong Kong. They should listen to the views of various sectors here. Well, electors, when they have the vote to choose the chief executive, that would amount to universal suffrage. The electoral reform package can be perfected over time, one step at a time. Thank you. Next one is Owen Chow. Chairman, members, on the electoral reform package, I think that the proposal is actually constitutional, rational, and in compliance with the law. It is the option best suitable for Hong Kong. Hong Kong, as a place ruled by law and a special administrative system of the country, any political reform package must actually make sure that it complies with the basic law. It needs to be constitutional and legal, because this is about the Hong Kong interests and also its relationship with China. And in accordance with the basic law, we have to have a chief executive that loves Hong Kong and the country. And this will actually facilitate the long-term stability and harmony of the country and Hong Kong. So we should not deny Hong Kong the chance to vote. Since the handover, Hong Kong people are allowed to rule the society. And by 2017, we are also given the right to vote. This is something unprecedented. This is actually really a precedent for the entire country. And this is a milestone in the constitutional development in Hong Kong and a major departure from the election system. From the 1200 election committee now, we are enabling 5 million people to vote. The August 31st resolution is not final. That means that there will be ample time for us to change our political system. If the political reform package is not passed, then how can we optimize it further? So to allow for universal suffrage in 2017 is the consensus of the 5 million voters in Hong Kong. As the person in charge of various youth organizations in Hong Kong, I know many young people now have their ideals for political system, and they do want to exercise their right to vote and be participating directly in the political system in Hong Kong. How many decades do we have in our lives? If the past is not passed now, we don't know when the reform package or reform proposals can be implemented ever. Shenzhen actually is now moving ahead of Hong Kong. If we continue to have internal disputes and be caught up in political disputes and not concentrate on our economy, then Hong Kong will lag behind Shenzhen even further. So we should have a universal or political reform package that is progressing in a gradual and orderly manner, and we should let this proposal be passed. Next one is Mr. Lee Chong Ming. Chairman and members, the Hong Kong SAR government proposed the method for selecting the chief executive, stating that by 2017, for the first time, we'll have a chance to vote for the chief executive through one man, one vote. I am personally anticipating the chance to elect the chief executive 2 years later. I'm sure most people in Hong Kong want to see universal suffrage for CE by 2017. It's better to have universal suffrage than being in a standstill. As for the let me talk about my view on the methods for selecting the CE. First of all, the nominating committee comprises 1,200 people based on 4 sectors. This actually is something based on a mature experience, and the setup will ensure that it's representative of various sectors in Hong Kong. Looking at the nominating procedures, like someone has said earlier, to get the 120 nominations will enable one to be nominated. The most is for 240 nominations to ensure that at least 5 to 10 people will stand in the election. That will be the entry threshold and, relatively speaking, a rather lax threshold. And each nominating member can support at least 2 candidates and at most all candidates, and that would ensure the basis of support for each candidate. This is a fair, just democratic procedure that is based on the principle of making changes in a gradual and orderly manner. For all children, when they learn to walk, they need to learn with baby steps first before they can run. You can't expect them to run to the finishing line overnight. So look at the August 31 resolution. That's something that cannot be changed. And there's also mainstream opinion supporting the government's reform package. Some Democrats should face up to reality and listen to the majority views and adopt for a process that is gradual and orderly and do not override the benefits of Hong Kong people. The political reform package will be voted on in Electrical very soon. The pro-establishment camp or pan-democrats should take up their responsibility and listen to the views of Hong Kong people, be practical and support the passage of the reform package so that Hong Kong can take a historical step forward. I also like to add that, for how long can we continue with the dispute over the reform package? We do hope that the Democrats can change. As said in the poem, it's really worrying if you override the government proposal.
Next, Mr. Ho Wai Hing. Good morning, Chairman, members. I speak on behalf of the Association of China Hong Kong Sports Societies, and I have 7 points to make. Point number 1. One person, one vote to select the chief executive by universal suffrage is the common aspiration of the majority of Hong Kong people. We believe that the aspiration is very clear, and as for the government's constitutional reform proposal, it is a good proposal which is in line with the existing social political situation in Hong Kong and also in line with the basic law. And the nominating procedure in the government's proposal is a fair and just and democratic procedure. Number 4, any democratic system should be developed in a gradual manner in line with social development. Comparing to 1,200-strong election committee, this is an improvement, and this is not the end game. We can have further improvement, and the Central People's Government has time and again emphasized that the August 31st decision will not and cannot be changed, and the Democrats should face up to reality and look ahead and listen to the majority view of society and do their work properly at this stage. Point number 6. Be it a member from the pro-establishment camp or the pan-democratic camp, the member should fulfill his responsibility and listen to the views of the majority of Hong Kong people and support the proposal so that we can take this historical step in constitutional development of Hong Kong. Point number 7. When we have mutual trust and when we take this critical step, and only by doing so can we improve the whole system of universal suffrage in light of the actual situation. Mr. Chow Kok Kang. Chairman, members, deputations, selecting the chief executive by universal suffrage in 2017 is an important issue, and the government's proposal is a feasible proposal, haven't taken into account the majority view of the public. It is also in line with the NPCSC's decision framework and the basic law, and only when this is implemented can we have one country, two systems in Hong Kong. And we should also think in the interest of Hong Kong as well as our country. Democratic development should take place gradually. It is unrealistic to take a leap. And if we continue to ignore the reality and come up with some fake arguments about international standards, Hong Kong people will not support that. Finally, The proposal is formulated under the framework of the August 31st decision and the Basic Law. And according to Article 45 of the Basic Law, there will be a 1,200-strong election committee comprising members from the 4 major sectors. It is widely representative, and it can represent the views of the public, and the nominating procedure is fair and just and democratic. It is also unprecedented in terms of the constitutional development in Hong Kong. The majority of the Hong Kong people are pragmatic and rational, and according to various opinion polls, the majority support passing the proposal. And we should therefore continue to forge a consensus and pass this proposal so that we can focus on social and economic development as soon as possible. We urge members in this council to pass the proposal, taking into account the majority view of the public, because otherwise it will have a major impact on our society and our economy. And the Pan-Democrats should not get in the way. It is hoped that we take this important step in that the Pan-Dems can support the proposal for the sake of the development of Hong Kong. Next, Chang Tat Hong. Good morning. I'm from the Civic Party, and Undersecretary Lau Kwong Wah is not even here. So you can see how the government attaches importance to the views of the public. Some say that there is no international standard when it comes to universal suffrage. So that's the same for air quality and noise pollution. If nobody dies, then this is the international standard. Well, maybe you may say that we just envy the systems in other countries, but you really cannot call it the system if it is not the same at all. Now, the 1,200 strong committee can manipulate the game and choose the one anointed along with 2 others. And is this a good universal suffrage system? There are those who believe in our legal system, and universal suffrage is not about fulfilling the constitutional duty in Article 45 of the Basic Law. And the Democratic Party actually risk the party's future by going in the liaison office and try to negotiate. And now we see in black and white that they're going back on their promises. So how can we believe in that? And we should tell the public that no, this is just a fake universal suffrage, not a real one. And parents should teach children that if this proposal is even worse than the DAP's proposal, this is not a genuine universal suffrage. At the district councils and in legislative council, we should exercise our right to vote so that we have a say. We should understand that we must rely on ourselves instead of a group of nobody who just look after their own interests. Well, the umbrella movement, at the end of the umbrella movement, somebody said that we'll be back. So I want to say that Hong Kong people should rely on themselves and that we will come back stronger. Mr. Fong Yin Pan. Good morning, Chairman. I don't want to say more other than that I support the government's proposal because one person, one vote is my aspiration. It's also my right, and I want to share my feelings with you. I am Chinese. I am locally born and raised, and I recall before reunification in the 80s, many classmates, many relatives emigrated because of their worries over reunification. But after 1997, they returned. And many of them told me that there hadn't been much change in Hong Kong, and they still considered Hong Kong a stable place. However, after the Occupy movement, not the anti-Occupy movement, but Occupy movement, they told me over the phone that they were very concerned about Hong Kong. They wondered why Hong Kong would become in such a state, and they were really concerned. So I wonder what we have become and what members of this council should do. Mr. Chan Kung. The Honorable Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I am Chairman of the Laos Overseas Chinese Friendship Hong Kong Association. Let me read out my speaking notes for today's meeting. To the Subcommittee on the method for selecting the Chief Executive in 2017 in the Legislative Council. On behalf of our association, I express support for the proposal for selecting the CE by universal suffrage in 2017 under the NPCSC August 31st decision and the Basic Laws framework, so that 5 million eligible voters can select the Chief Executive by one person, one vote. I also would like to show appreciation for the remarks made by Director Zhang Xiaoming of the Liaison Office in relation to the universal suffrage with Hong Kong characteristics, which should be promoted. This is the most democratic system in the history of Hong Kong. We also support Mr. C.H. Tong's remarks that those against the Communist Party should not be able to be nominated. And this is in line with the PRC's Constitution and the Basic Law of Hong Kong. And this is from me, Chairman Chan Kung of the Laos Overseas Chinese Friendship Hong Kong Association. And I want to add something. Members here, you're members of this council, and you should support the government, and you should love the government, and you should not bite the hand of the owner who feeds you. And also, according to Article 23, of the Basic Law, we strongly urge to enact legislation based on Article 23 of the Basic Law to fulfill the responsibility. And finally, 2017, make it happen. We support that. Thank you. Next, Mr. Leung Chee Kwong. Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, members and deputations. Now, other deputations have spoken this morning, and we have heard different views. As a Hong Konger, I agree with other deputations. In 1842, Hong Kong was conceded to Britain, and then in 1997 reunited with China. And from history, it's been clear that all the while we have been ruled by the colonial governor sent from Britain. And now we have this proposal, which is very good, very mature, because it represents the people of Hong Kong. It represents the wish of Hong Kong people to select our chief executive by one person, one vote. And ever since reunification, Hong Kong has been progressing. However, in recent years, because of electoral members' filibustering tactics, we have seen cost overruns in projects. And according to some members, these members practicing filibustering had caused a waste of billions of dollars. And as other deputations mentioned, our competitiveness is declining. And I have relatives who have emigrated, and they're very concerned. And very often when there are heated debates in Hong Kong, my relative would ring and ask what is going on. And we must bear in mind that Hong Kong people are hardworking, and we have the can-do spirit, and we should continue to bolster our status as Pearl of the Orient. And we should therefore support this proposal so that we can select our chief executive in 2017 by one person, one vote, so that we can have social economic development. And last one, Mr. C. Well, in recent years, because of the objectives, tactics, because of filibustering, some proposals that should have been passed were not passed. Some projects of members concerned, the third runway system and Liantang BCP, these projects have seen huge cost overruns because of filibustering. This greatly undermines the interests of Hong Kong people, and we are losing our edge, and we are lagging behind other cities. And there are also members who just oppose for the sake of opposing, and they would also like to mislead the public into thinking that this is not one person, one vote. This is neglecting the interest of the 7 million people in Hong Kong, so as to get in the way of the government. And if the proposal can be passed, and if we have one person, one vote for the selection of chief executive in 2017, we can make a breakthrough. We can then focus our effort on real work. And all along there have been those in the community distorting the interpretation of the basic law, sending out the wrong message. And as the Chinese saying goes, the basic law is the rules for universal suffrage for the selection of chief executive. And Hong Kong people should not be confused. If we do not have the basic law as a cornerstone for universal suffrage and election, Hong Kong will become lawless. And we must also only few candidates who agree with the NPCSC August 31st decision on the basic law. Otherwise, the person won't be able to lead Hong Kong in accordance with the basic law and the NPCSC decisions. So we must not depart from these principles. And some say that we should follow the election methods in the Western countries. Well, let me ask you, before reunification, could we elect our governor? But now you can become a C candidate as long as you have, you can seek nomination for becoming C candidate if you have 120 recommendations. So it is an improvement, and it is a proposal that represents improvement from the existing model, and it is more democratic. A democratic system must be developed gradually through a process of discussion and negotiation and mutual concessions. Finally, we must stand firm and support this proposal so as to prove. Well, sorry, your time is up. It's time for members to ask questions, to have raised their hands. I'd like to see any more. Mr. Ray Chan, any more? We have 2 Chen Chi-chins today. I will not be confused. 5 minutes, Mr. Chen Kam-nam. Thank you, Chairman. I thank representatives and deputations for attending this morning's hearing, and I've listened very carefully. and most of you are sincere as you urge Pan-Democrats in this council to support the government's constitutional reform proposal so that we can have one person, one vote for the CE election in 2017. And I've heard some really good speeches, and I'd like to invite some of you to supplement. Well, we've heard members of this council from different political parties and members of the community telling us why they would oppose the government's proposal. And one crucial point is whether this is a genuine or fake universal suffrage. And we can't help but reflect on whether this is a real or genuine or fake universal suffrage. And what does international standards mean? And recently, we've also heard scholars and political figures in the global arena showing support for this proposal. So my question for you here is whether you have any deeper understanding on this matter. In particular, recently Mr. Albert Ho said very clearly in this council the following: why can't an anti-communist be a candidate? Why can't somebody like that be a candidate? So our interpretation is that even those against the Communist Party, against China, could become a candidate for CE election.
So I would like to put to you, are you in support of that? This candidate for the CE, that he has to love Hong Kong and be patriotic? And also for the Pan-Democrats' proposal of civic nomination, this is not enshrined in the Basic Law. Are you in support that for something that is not legally based, this kind of nomination method, do you think that in this present time of election be allowed? Those are my questions. I do not know many of you. One of you have taken the taxi to be here. You spent some money, and that lady, and also Mr. Mok Chen. And because of the limitation of time, I would like to hear from them. Who would want to speak up first? Mok Chen? Mr. Mok Chen? Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, responding to Mr. Chan's question as to whether the CE candidate should love Hong Kong and be patriotic, I am completely in the affirmative. Some say that there may be certain layers of selection for the candidate. Why should there be selection? We have always said that and maintained that Hong Kong is a part of China. The Basic Law, the first stipulation, says that Hong Kong is an inalienable part of China. And we cannot just borrow from overseas countries because those are countries. Hong Kong is a Hong Kong SAR. The chief executive is the chief executive of the Hong Kong SAR. And for the Hong Kong SAR CE to not support the country will result in major conflict. Now, for Taiwan, perhaps you would say that the Taiwan or the Taipei mayor is not from the ruling party, that is Kuomintang. But on the other hand, it is also true that because of these party rivalries, some of the measures that should be implemented at the local level are not implemented. And therefore, I am in support that the candidate should love Hong Kong and be patriotic. Li Kuan-Yen. Thank you very much for coming to the lecture to let us hear your views. But why is there not Mr. Lau Kwong-wah here? He is the walking stage set, and we all know that Lau Kwong-wah has no job to do. And why is he not here today? From morning to evening, we're listening to the deputations. Why is Lau Kwong-wah not here? Well, apart from Lau Kwong-wah, what about the task force, the 3 members of the task force? Why are they not here? They've never been at the deputations at the LegCo, so I express regret that the government or the administration is completely not listening to the deputations, especially for those heads of the bureaus and departments and the 3 members of the task force. They are not here. Now, in society, there are a lot of people saying that they want one man, one vote for the election of the chief executive. This has been our slogan for a long many years. When we shout one man, one vote for the election of CE, it was as early as the 1980s, really, for agitating for a democratic basic law, a democratic election to the LegCo. And it was in 2007, 2008 that we came up with the slogans for double universal suffrage. Now, at that time, why didn't you come out to say one man, one vote for election of the CE? The establishment parties at the time sold out Hong Kong people because the central government was not allowing one man, one vote for electing the CE. Has Hong Kong come to that stage? And that is to say, before the central government comes up with something, we do not dare fight for it. And only when the central government comes out with, say, one man, one vote, then we parrot it. Why can't we choose our own way of election? Why do we have to listen to the central government? Some people say we have to follow the basic law. I'd like to put this question to you. Lu Ping, Mr. Lu Ping, wasn't he authoritative? Before 1997, Mr. Lu Ping, what did he say about the basic law concerning the election of the chief executive? At the time, he said the basic law, well, after 1997, the election of the chief executive will be decided by 2/3 majority of the LegCo. The central government will not intervene. And now it is the 5 steps. It is a 3-1 decision. Who had twisted the basic law? Who had not followed the basic law? I put that question to you. And also for anti-communism, for those who are against the Communist Party, they should not stand for election of the CE. But this is about the Hong Kong people. How can there be any political screening? Hong Kong people should choose its own candidate in CE. Now, if there is the 120 votes, those are from the nominating committee. The 4 sectors, why are they eligible to allocate the votes? 240,000 people to make that, to have that power. Is that acceptable? Mao Zedong had said, if there is just voting without nomination, then the people are just, or the voters are just voting machines. It is not true universal suffrage. I want you to think about that. We will have time later on to respond, but I first of all would like to ask where is Mr. Lau Kwong-wah? Yes, the Secretary, please. Would you want to answer that question? Mr. Gordon Leung. Mr. Chair, of course, we put a lot of importance on this meeting, and we listen carefully to the deputations. We are certainly not disrespectful. As for Lee Cheuk-Yen's point concerning the officials who are not here today because they have other work, they cannot be here. Lau Kwong-wah has no other work. Are you arranging for them to go north to Beijing? Can you talk about that as well? Well, Mr. Chair, as for the Hong Kong SAR government trying its best to arrange for electoral members and the meetings with central government officials, we are still working towards that. Mr. Chen Chi-chen. Mr. Chair, for the 3 members of the task force, Ms. Carrie Lam and Mr. Tam, and well, basically, I'm very dissatisfied with their not being present here at this meeting. Please give us the official duties and itinerary of the 3 members of the task force. Make that public so that the public can decide for themselves whether their work is more important than the deputations that we're listening to today. 300 deputations, they are absent. They say that they're listening to the public. They go to the different local regions. Well, how can they come into contact with 300 deputations? Those whatever associations and etc. They build a platform, a stage, and they're more than willing to go and attend. But we are here at the LegCo. The LegCo members are present, and there are 300 deputations, but not even Lau Kong Wah is here. How can you say that you're listening to the people of Hong Kong? For those meetings with the public where there's a stage built, perhaps you say that those are safer, but here at the most we can do is to shout a few slogans. Well, I thank the deputations for coming up today. I urge you to think on a few issues. There will not be really fiery arguments today. But I would say for this morning, I hear that most of the deputations are in support of supporting the proposal, that is pocketing it first, so to speak. And I see that there are a few of you who are very clearly not in support of this, including the Civic Party representatives. Now, for the mainstream of Hong Kong, most of the people of Hong Kong are in support of pocketing it first, or maybe you didn't say that, but in support of the government proposal. When you say that, can you think of what are you basing that on? The majority of Hong Kong. Well, a lady said, taxi driver. Yes, taxi drivers I've come across who have rolled down the window and said that carry it on till the end. Do not forget where your initial intentions. All these are also public opinion. Now, cable TV had come up with the survey result of 43.5% for and 40.5% against, and there may be other variants as well with this 3 percentage points lead. Now, if you think that you really would want to accept this proposal, then in the future you can, in the election, you do not vote us in. I am a district elected member. Well, don't vote me in if that's what you want. If you think the majority view of the Hong Kong people is to pocket it first, then people like us, members like us, will not be voted in as LegCo members. So show your view that way. If the major party in the LegCo is given would of course be big and would have been given the biggest support by the people of Hong Kong, then show your support, show your views. Now, as for those functional constituency members, you do not have the vote to vote them in or not. And for the future nominating committee or the election committee, most of the members of Hong Kong do not have the right to vote those members in. When they make decisions that are against your will, no one will be able to use a vote to punish them. Somebody said, as long as we are able, as a party is able to control 601 members of the nomination committee, then that would already be able to be, that's already sufficient to control the results. And there is no punishment for them. There is no way we can retaliate. if they do not listen to the majority view of the Hong Kong people. So that is why I say this election system, the biggest problem is that for all the opinion surveys, they say this is for reference only. So according to, well, the referendum, the public referendum is the only way of voting, showing our thoughts. Mr. Yu Shi, the members of the public or deputations have given us a very clear and positive message, and that is we want to have one man, one vote in voting in our CE. Over the past 100 years, who's given us this democracy, this freedom, this opportunity? The British governor was sent from the UK. And now we are given a commitment for actualizing one man, one vote for the CE election. This is very clear. This is very obvious. This is clearly and obviously an opportunity for the people of Hong Kong to make our voice heard. But why is there such tearing apart of society? Why is there this big controversy? It is because there is a wish to demonize the Beijing government and the Hong Kong government. Now, at the time, at the reversion to Chinese sovereignty, there was people saying that this will be communism in practice in Hong Kong, and Hong Kong will no longer be free. Now, a lot of people were afraid and they emigrated. Now, it's been 17 years. Hong Kong has not changed. It is more stable and prosperous than before, and a lot of immigrants are actually regretful. And many of them have come back to Hong Kong, and even for their children who were born and bred in overseas, they want to come back as well to enjoy the law and order in Hong Kong and the prosperity. Why is that? It is because the Hong Kong SAR government had, according to the requirement of the central government, served as very well governing Hong Kong. Now, why do we not take this opportunity of one man, one vote for electing the CE? It is because of the opposition parties. They come up with all kinds of views that seem true but are actually false in misleading the Hong Kong people. Hong Kong people should recognize this devilish face of these opposition party. Look back on the past 17 years, what had happened? What had taken place? What was beneficial to the Hong Kong people, to the Hong Kong government? And what is the sincerity of the central government? What are the facts? What is the truth? So as to overcome the over-politicization, the false statements and the misleading statements from the opposing parties, the people of Hong Kong must recognize the reality. So I think for this entire promotion for the reform proposal, let us not lose steam. Let us use a rational and reasonable manner to show our views. And the Hong Kong SAR government should also not be discouraged. And also the pan-democrats, most importantly, should be practical, look at the history and support a reform proposal that will be good for Hong Kong SAR. Also, for delayed tactics and filibustering at the LegCo, please tone those down, pan-democrats, so that Hong Kong can, in Asia and in the world, continue to stand up high. As a pro-establishment member of the LegCo, I will continue to support the proposal and to promote for its support in society. Well, Sin Chung Kai, Mr. Chair, Some of us are not very happy that Lau Kwong-wah is not here today. I thank the deputations for coming up. But even if Lau Kwong-wah was here, it would not be meaningful. Now, for the proposed election system, you liken it to the Iranian election system. I do not agree with that. That's Lam Chek-Ting's view. Well, this is the Chinese way of election. It's with selection or voting without candidates. Basically, the number of candidates were exactly the same as the number of vacancies. And also for the Communist Party, the spiritual leader will have to approve the candidates. Now, this is not the Iranian way, but it is a Chinese way. I would like to know how you see the election system being unfair. Well, Mr. Chair, I think there are three big limitations for the 831 decision. One, the composition of the nominating committee will have to follow the constitution of the election committee, and also 50% majority will have to be there will have to be 50% support from the election committee. Now, I hark back to the time of Tung Chee-hwa's days. He did not enjoy public support, and there were a lot of criticisms against him at the time from the parties. But in the end, Mr. Tung Chee-hwa was nominated for re-election. Now, that is very clear. If the nominating committee is to follow the constitution of the election committee, and the out-of-gate candidate will have to get at least 50% support of the election committee, then it would be the same. I would want to respond to Mr. Cham Kam Lam's point about loving Hong Kong and the being patriotic. Now, actually, the ruling party is just the ruling party of a country. It does not mean that opposing the ruling party means opposing the country. In fact, the central government and the Hong Kong SAR government had emphasized time and again that the majority of the people of Hong Kong love Hong Kong and are patriotic. Even they say so. So I'm perplexed. If the vast majority of the Hong Kong people love Hong Kong and are patriotic, then why would the voting results be would yield or come up with a person who is not patriotic and not love Hong Kong? But in fact, and please not forget, in 1984, Mr. Deng Xiaoping said the criterion for patriotism was whether the person believes in capitalism or feudalism or that slave system should be installed. It doesn't matter. The Chinese socialism system does not have to be believed in as well. That is very perplexing to me. Even Mr. Deng Xiaoping said that the Chinese socialism or the communism system need not be supported. Why are we now saying, or some people are saying, that not supporting the communist system is unpatriotic? That is false. As for international standards, earlier on there had been some constitutional experts who have come to the University of Hong Kong to talk about how one can assess a system is universal suffrage or not. There were 5 points there. I will not detail the 5 points. Suffice it to say that there should not be unreasonable restrictions to the system. And also the specialists or experts had also said that for universal suffrage, the international standards, or the crux of it, is that the people have true choice or real choice, and that was very clear. Now, bringing up the threshold to 50% is naked selection or pre-selection. And therefore, I urge members of the public who are here today at this meeting and those who are pro-establishment not to mislead the people of Hong Kong any further. Mr. Michael Tian. Mr. Chairman, I have been present on both Saturdays. I've heard from the middle, I've heard from the left, and I've heard from the right. A lot of people actually have their own stance, and I can understand that. But I'm most interested in listening to those who do not have pre-established stance, how they see it.
There was a teacher and so forth. And from what I heard, actually I was inspired. I think no one would disagree with the common saying nowadays that in this world, there's nothing that's always the best, but we just have to think whether there's something better. I'm sure you agree with that. To all those who do not support political reform proposal and those who claim, members who claim not to support the political reform package, and to all those whose stance is unknown, I'd like to ask them 3 simple questions. The first one is, if the reform package was passed, the CE concerned, would he be more accountable to the 7 million people in Hong Kong, think along the lines of thinking of Hong Kong people and care even a lot more for Hong Kong people's interests rather than, being leaning towards the thinking of the 1,200 people? My second question is, the National People's Congress Standing Committee's the timetable for 2017 election. I don't know where it came from. I remember after the handover, we've always heard about a gradual and orderly change. And there was no particular timetable. At that time, I was struggling with my own business, learning how to run my own business. And I remember back then from, all day long, people kept talking about, gradual and orderly progress and, while fighting for universal suffrage. And the decision to have the roadmap by 2017 was something that the 7 million people in Hong Kong fought for successfully. Now that we've got this timetable, as it's stated clearly in the Basic Law, that the universal suffrage in 2017 would be followed by, the provision for the CE to kick off the 5-step process by then. So you have to think, in the future, whoever got nominated by the nominating committee, they would be asked inevitably whether in their term of office optimize the election mechanism. My suspect is there will only be 2 responses. One is, I won't have a timetable, I will not make any pledge. Another answer would be that I would act according to the actual circumstance. So who do you think of these 2 candidates who would win? I suppose the person giving the second answer would win. And that person win. And if the people choose that person as a CE and that person does a proper job and there isn't much view for optimizing this mechanism, and he would say that, well, I said that, I would make changes according to the circumstance, and if there are no major disputes, the mechanism would not be optimized. But if during his term of office there were to be a big demand for optimization, then would that CE say, well, because I couldn't hear any voices, then I would not make any change at the risk of not being re-elected again? So what will happen is he would fight for nomination from the 1,200 nominators and to try to get a realization of the August 31 framework. I think most people find, that the most difficult part of the August 31 resolution is it would actually remain, actually keeping a very restrictive system. So I think you can make your decision based on my views. Next one is Priscilla Leung. Chairman, I'm very pleased to see the delegations today. Particularly, I heard from Ms. Chow Feng-yi, and I found that her views directly and simply actually represent the views expressed by ordinary people. I'd like to thank you all for coming. To Mr. Lam Chut-ting, who actually associate our current system or proposal with the system in Iran, I think you should retract your comment. People always make associations with the Nazis even, but I think that's very unfair to Hong Kong. Even if Hong Kong is at a standstill, Hong Kong is still a very attractive place with freedom of speech. We're capitalists. We have religious freedom. So there's no way you can, try to make such a simple association. I think it's better for us to take a step forward than actually remaining at a standstill. But let me say that universal suffrage is not panacea, and neither can it resolve all the livelihood issues here. It's just that it represents a step forward. We're trying to be practical and pragmatic. We need to explain to the public that this is just one step forward. And even the ideal systems that some people suggested cannot resolve all the issues, as shown in other countries, indeed. So I think you're trying to actually appeal to populism. I mean, some people really are offended by your remark to compare Hong Kong with Iran. And just Mr. Leung Chut-ting make a point about loving Hong Kong and the country. And Deng Xiaoping made it clear, though, that in his remark, that if he were to, Hong Kong to have one country, two systems, where Hong Kong has a totally different system from the mainland, Mr. Deng did mention there will be a boundary. That is, the patriots should respect their own ethnic tribe and be totally supportive of exercising control or sovereignty over Hong Kong and without undermining the harmony and prosperity in Hong Kong. Maybe you have your views on socialism, capitalism, or welfareism, but I don't think no one should do anything to hurt the prosperity and stability in Hong Kong. And the person involved should also respect that Hong Kong really is part of China, under the sovereign rule of China. The Occupy Central that happened last year really opened our eyes, because it showed to us that Hong Kong could go to such extreme, where people make criticisms that show that people do not accept Hong Kong as part of China. I was really astounded by our education over the past decade or so. There are young people who really believe in Hong Kong's being an independent state, who believe in unlimited boundaries for localism. When I had a debate with Mr. Lee Kai-tak, he even mentioned that he said that now Hong Kong was being occupied by China. So that sort of comments made me feel that that amounts to a disrespect to our, to the Chinese people, to our ethnic actually group. Hong Kong people are not just Hong Kong citizens. We are all citizens of the Chinese People's Republic. There's no tribe as Hong Kong people. We are part of Chinese people, the Chinese people. So now the situation is worse than when the Basic Law was enacted. So you say, well, loving Hong Kong, loving China, does not really amount to much. Economically speaking, China is actually more righteous than us. What is key is whether you're concerned about the stability and prosperity of Hong Kong. I think the bottom line is we need to ensure the stability and prosperity here. If Hong Kong end up being in a chaos after the reform package was voted on, and in a very confusing state, then Hong Kong will lose its attractiveness. Please don't compare ours with other systems. Our system is unique. We are having the one country, two systems framework, which is superior and found in many other places in the world, indeed. Next one is Chen Yunhan. Well, you're not asked to respond, sorry. Chairman, let me put it this way. Let's calm down. I'd like to thank you all for coming to here this morning. You're concerned about Hong Kong. This is something really major. Maybe you all have different views. If we want to, on the current basis, that is from election by 1,200 people to 5 million people, that's something worth thinking about. Some of our members said, can we not go down that path? But I think you can ask the labor sector. In my case, when I ask for, rights for the labor sector, we can choose from various options, and what we opted for may not be actually the ideal to us. I was talking to Michael Tian earlier on. Many years ago, we thought about corporate roles and individual roles, and also there are also various stages involved for granting individual roles. But now time is running out. Yu Guoping and Zhang Mingshun have different views either on that issue. Now we're at a critical point. For the benefit of Hong Kong, we need to actually act to maximize benefits. I know young people and the pan-democrats have their own views, and we can continue to fight for what we want for. After this, you can still continue negotiating on the conditions given. I've been following up on this issue for a long time. Now we're at a critical stage. If you argue for the sake of arguing, then that's not beneficial to Hong Kong. I think it's fair for us to act in goodwill, to break the impasse. I know members just asked the administration. I know we're near, the voting time, and there isn't much time left for the central government to negotiate with the Democrats. Unless you have concrete proposals, then maybe you can have a negotiation with the central government. But if you go back to original principle, your high principle, then it may be difficult for further negotiations to occur. Quite a number of electoral members do want to see the political reform package passed. You have made various requests at different times. To be fair, since last year till now, over the past year or so, I'm not looking at it from the perspective of the central government. I think that the central government has actually tried to acted in goodwill. Like last time, we were invited to Shanghai. I felt unhappy because it was a chance. It provided us a chance to achieve a breakthrough. And unfortunately, pan-democrats and young people had their own views, and they, had their own stance. But if we're trying to be pragmatic, I do hope that the young people present here today think about, maybe you are not satisfied with the half step, but for quite a lot of people, I don't know whether, I'm not going to argue whether they're majority or not. On the whole, I think people do hope that more than half of the people here will vote in support of the plan. Well, people are trying to mobilize more support. But I think that if, for the benefit of Hong Kong, you can try not to be so antagonistic to each other. Excuse me for saying this, Mr. Lam. I'm more familiar with you. I do have expectations for you that you could be pragmatic and practical. I know you have your own doubts, your views. That doesn't really matter that much. Hong Kong actually is a society that embraces various cultures. I don't want to see people trying to beat one another. We can't allow Hong Kong to be so polarized into two major camps. Mr. Lam, you are young. Well, we are responsible for maybe creating, or to resulting in people like you holding your views. There's only a little more than a month left. We have to find ways. Our colleagues, may wonder what sort of arrangements will be made by the central government. But what use would that have? Because we don't know what new positions there'll be. Last time Mr. Li Fei was here, in April, he wanted to see you, and yet even before he arrived, you people actually scolded him. I think the central government does want to continue dialogue, but let's act in goodwill and be kind to each other. I'm saying this, to let the young people know. Well, this session is supposed to end at 11:15, but because there are two members who want to speak, Michael Tian and Ho Chun-yin, and I also need to give time to the administration to respond. So, members, okay, we'll finish the round after the two members have spoken. Sorry, I think Mr. Lam, I think Sin Chung Gai actually gave you time to respond already. And also, I don't think there's much room for debate. Sorry, we don't have enough time now. So if you have further views to make, please give them to us in writing. Michael Tian, thank you, Chairman. First of all, I very much agree. James Tian, I very much agree with what Michael Tian just said. He's my younger brother, but the most important is speaking on behalf of the new party, and he made a very good speech. And he came here early, and I came here later, so I didn't really hear all the views expressed. But Chen Yuhan also talked to me just then, and that made me want to tell you my views as well. Like Miss Chen, as a very experienced LegCo member for more than a decade ago, when there were a lot of labor issues, I was involved in resolving them, and I experienced these views. I knew that more communications is always better. My own views are that, but they during the period of the Occupy Central, I came into contact with students. And I felt that our young generation today, particularly those who are born in the 1990s, they don't quite understand, what happened in the 1980s, when negotiations were underway in preparation for Hong Kong's handover to China. Negotiations were undertaken between British and Chinese governments. The young people were inclined towards two systems. We have our own passports, they think, we have our own currency. And when choosing the chief executive, and, they wonder why there's need to be approval from the central government and the screening.
I also noticed that recently some Chinese government officials made remarks about one country, two systems. So I agree with Ms. Chen Yunhan. If we don't have more communication with our young people, then our future will be at stake. Now, from the perspective of the business sector, as far as constitutional development is concerned, we started with 400 strong committee, and then 800, and then 1,200. And still, the majority of the public do not have a right to vote. And recently on a radio program, I talked about an analogy, and I said that the 1,200 strong election committee is very powerful. And the candidate that the committee prefers would very likely become the chief executive, like CY Leung with 689 votes. So in terms of legitimacy, representativeness, well, imagine if the mandate comes from the Beijing government only, not from the people, then more or less he may have his own views. So if the proposal is passed, then the analogy is that this chief executive will have two bosses, regardless of whether the two bosses have equal powers. So it may be easier for the next CE if the proposal is passed, because one important mission rarely mentioned about the chief executive is that he should be the connector between Hong Kong people and the CPG. He should explain the difficulties of CPG to Hong Kong people. He should also reflect the views of Hong Kong people to the CPG. So if the chief executive is returned by universal suffrage, and as Mr. Michael Tan said just now, in the process of debate, he must answer questions and he must give undertakings. For example, to fight the corner for Hong Kong people, and he will have a greater degree of legitimacy and mandate. And this will definitely be a step forward instead of an impasse. Well, of course, some say that if the status quo is maintained, they could continue to strive for genuine universal suffrage. But this will take another 5 years. So why can't we take a step first and then make improvements? Mr. Stephen Ho. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, deputations, for coming and expressing your views here today. And your views have been heard loud and clear. The majority of people in Hong Kong support constitutional reform. We can't say that everybody does, but it seems that relatively there is more support for the proposal. And deputations like Mr. Lam has different views. And we must all accept that Hong Kong is a pluralistic society, and we must strive for consensus and find room for development. Regrettably, after the Occupy movement staged by the opposition, there is now a wider divide, and we can no longer set aside our differences. And this is the biggest problem in Hong Kong. And recently, I also have an insight into this issue. As a politician, we don't have perpetual enemies, we don't have perpetual friends, we only have perpetual interests. However, some people in the political arena is not putting the interests of Hong Kong people first. It is obvious that passing the proposal would represent a step forward in constitutional development. So why are we still opposing it? I think those opposing should reflect on themselves and show some political responsibility instead of looking after their own interests. And just now, some criticized some political parties, and the international standard point is mentioned. In fact, the international standard, in my view, is now a double standard. No matter how democratic it is, if it is against my interests, I would oppose it. And vice versa. Ask Democratic Party and ask those opposing the proposal whether this is true. Last year, Oriental Daily or newspaper suggested that somebody pocketed the $500,000 as a black money, and even the Labour Party is involved. And did you suggest any investigation? No, because you would be affected. And yet, when it comes to CY Leung, you immediately try to invoke the PNP. So this is double standard. Can you find the perfect political system? Why is it that in UK, in US, they also have different electoral methods? Why don't they have civic nomination as well? Why must we have civic nomination here in Hong Kong? We're trying to look for the best, the electoral system best suited to the to Hong Kong. We can't find one that is best in line with international standard. We must find one which is in the best interest of Hong Kong people. So patriotic and loving Hong Kong, loving China is the major principle. And we must act in accordance with the basic law and under the NPCSC decisions framework. If we don't follow the basic law, Hong Kong will become a lawless place. We always say that the legal system is, or the rule of law is our cornerstone. But Hong Kong people should be clear who is breaking the law. Now, federal governments, other governments in other countries, they also antagonizes each other, and they do so by taking political battle. And Hong Kong is experiencing the same. You should not take everything to the street. You should also observe the law, observe the rules. And in fact, you could check the rules of procedures. It's in your drawer. Deputy Secretary, your response. I thank deputations for your views, and just now we heard supporting and opposing views on the government's proposed constitutional reform package. I just want to emphasize that this proposal has come under under a long period of consultation. We have heard all the views and considered all the views very carefully. And this proposal is built on the basis of a constitution and our legal system. We believe that this is the appropriate proposal, and it is also one that has the highest chance of being recognized by all and being passed in Legislative Council. And the government will, in due course, table this proposal in the Council for voting. And we have appealed a number of times to members to pass the proposal so that 5 million eligible voters in Hong Kong can select the chief executive by one person, one vote in 2017. Well, we're going to end this session, and we're going to start another session soon. So I thank once again deputations and individuals for coming this morning.